I felt that going as more energy started to go towards this movement headed by Adbusters, that this was a real generation-defining moment for many, many people.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally am getting a sense, as I pay attention to the chapters across the country, that this really is swelling and is not going anywhere. So what do you see? What do you think the future in the next couple of weeks or months is going to look like? What kind of change do you think this is actually going to affect?
Well, there are a lot of people that we spoke to from different areas, and there was discussion about how other similar protests are springing up across the nation in response and for the same reasons. And I do believe with true organization and focus and kind of coming together on one accord as a community, there's no way that positive effect cannot take place. But I do believe, to your point about having a sort of nostalgic and romantic idea of protest in relation to what was observed in the 60s, as it's painted romantically, for those of us who haven't been there, and hoping to duplicate the same thing. I do feel that there is a threat of becoming caught up in the romantic ideal and allowing yourself to just be there without actually pushing against anything or moving to change anything. Again, it's kind of tricky for me to say because I was only there for a very small portion of time, and while I was there, it was pretty much downtime. So there were a lot of people kind of just relaxing and sitting back. So I was careful not to judge anybody and to assume that there were people there who had no sense of what was going on. There were some, you could bump into people and tell that there were some people just there just to show up, and other people there with more of a cause or more of a reason to. Unfortunately, it was hard from my standpoint to get a glimpse of the whole thing and to understand just what percentage of people here are really striving to make a change or to affect the change, and are really willing to roll up their sleeves and to do what must be done. And again, me personally, I agree with the older lady that I spoke to, in that wherever you are, whether you're in the New York area and can come to Wall Street and stand there with everybody in defiance or not, or if you're elsewhere and you can't make it, it's seriously about how well do we provide for each other within our own particular communities. In that case, if we're able to do so, then being dependent upon a government that has no desire to provide for you will no longer matter, because you can provide for one another. Now, of course, there are different things being enacted that make this a little more difficult. But I strongly believe where there's a will, there's a way. And wherever somebody truly intends to change what is currently happening, change will be there. It's already waiting there for you to just, stand up to the plate, I guess.
Word. Well, do you think you're going to have the ability to participate in any of the other protests, perhaps the one in D.C. starting on the 6th, or one in your home state?
I haven't heard about anything in New Jersey just yet. And that may simply be a matter of it getting no coverage in the mainstream. But given the opportunity, I definitely will. I have a couple of things coming up. I actually have a class I'm about to start. I'm going back to school. So that may make it a little difficult, but given the opportunity, definitely. And this won't be the last time I go out to Wall Street, because that's just a hop, skip, and jump for me.
Anything else that really stood out to you while you were there?
It was very, very, very beautiful and powerful to see the children involved. And again, the same lady I spoke about before, who talked about the conflict of interest in seeing police acting unjustly and wanting to turn her son away for the time being, to shield him from that. She made the point about presenting a peaceful protest, or the example of a peaceful protest, to her 7-year-old son, so that he could see it and understand it, and being excited about it being peaceful, because if that's not the case, then by the time he's older, all protests would be violent. And I agree with that very much. And there were many children there, and there are many people who brought their children there. And I think it's a good thing for children to at least come away with the sense that their voice does matter, and that there is a right to speak up, not to become so disillusioned and cynical that you don't even raise your voice.
Right.
So that I think that probably affected me the strongest.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some wisdom involved with, I mean, obviously, a parent, I think, has the ability to understand another half of life or so, is a way to put it, that,
Yes.
that those of us who don't have children or haven't had the child rearing experience simply can't understand. And so when you're describing this scenario to me, I see wisdom in that situation, and I see the ability to recognize a bigger picture as opposed to just throwing her kid into a potentially anarchic scene and maybe distorting his viewpoint of lots of things before he really knows how to process them. So yeah, that's pretty inspiring, actually.
Right. I definitely feel that way, and for me, it's very easy sometimes for me to become very cynical and disillusioned with how much of change can actually be affected within the government. And again, that's why I lean so heavily on believing it's more so about how much you provide for people within your community, or not that that's the only thing that you can do, but it's a level in which you can operate autonomously, I personally believe. But observing in that moment and in that instant, children and understanding the benefit that is for these children to be able to observe this and to carry this forth into their own coming decades, which are arguably going to be a lot more difficult if things don't change, gave me more hope than I suppose I expected to find there.
Well, thank you so much for sharing those stories with us, so that those of us who can't be there and are doing whatever we can to try to be in the movement with people who are, you can help create a clearer picture for us.
You're very welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you for having